Have you ever found yourself calm in the middle of chaos, when everything around you is crumbling, yet you feel an inner stillness? Have you started valuing silence over arguments, self-respect over being liked, peace over validation? If so, something powerful is happening within you. You might be stepping into one of the rarest transformations in today's chaotic, emotionally reactive world. You're becoming a modern Stoic. In an age ruled by impulsiveness, instant gratification, and emotional outbursts, becoming Stoic is a revolutionary act. It means you've begun to choose your mind over mood, principles over pressure, and inner strength over outer approval. This video will reveal 6 signs that you're becoming a modern Stoic, each one more powerful, more emotionally liberating than the last. So stay with me until the very end. Because if even one of these signs speaks to your soul, you're not just changing your life, you're reclaiming your power. Sign number 1, you no longer react. You respond, calmly and consciously. There was a time, maybe not too long ago, when someone's words could ruin your day. An insult, a dismissive look, an unfair judgment. You'd snap, overthink, feel emotionally hijacked. You'd obsess over what they said, how they said it, and what it meant. But something has changed. Now, when people try to provoke you, they find a wall not of coldness, but of composure. You don't lash out. You don't chase closure. You don't stoop to pettiness. You simply pause, breathe, choose your response, if any. This is one of the first and most profound signs of becoming a modern Stoic: emotional sovereignty. You are no longer the puppet of your emotions. You're the master of them. See, Stoicism doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you feel deeply, but act wisely. You've realized that most situations don't need a reaction, they need reflection. That not every insult deserves your energy. That arguing with fools only makes you look like one. You've tasted the rare power of remaining unmoved when others lose control. And here's the truth. In a world addicted to reaction, your restraint is radical. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when your partner says something hurtful, when your boss disrespects you, instead of being dragged by your emotions, you anchor yourself in reason. You ask, is this worth my peace? Will this matter a year from now? And if the answer is no, you let it go. That ability to let it go isn't weakness. It's strength, the kind most people never develop. You know now that your peace is priceless. You've stopped trading it for petty arguments or fragile egos. You don't seek revenge. You seek growth. You don't seek to be right. You seek to be wise. You've learned what Epictetus once taught. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And that reaction is now a conscious, calm response. But here's the beautiful twist. Because you don't react, people respect you more. You're unpredictable, not in a chaotic way, but in a grounded, mysterious, powerful way. People sense your calm is not fake, it's earned. You've suffered, reflected, matured. And now, you walk through storms with your head held high. Not because the storm doesn't rage, but because your inner world doesn't. You no longer scream to be heard. You whisper, and the world listens. You don't fight for attention. You attract it through your presence, not your performance. You've Started building that quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need to be loud to be noticed. That's the first undeniable sign you're becoming a modern Stoic. And if this resonates with you deeply, if you've caught yourself observing more and reacting less, know this: you're not becoming colder. You're becoming wiser. You're not becoming detached. You're becoming free. And in that silence, you're hearing your soul for the very first time. Sign number 2. You embrace discomfort as a teacher, not an enemy. Most people spend their lives running from pain, from uncertainty, from anything that doesn't feel comfortable. But not you. Not anymore. At some point, something shifted. Instead of fearing discomfort, you started to lean into it. Instead of avoiding hard truths, you began facing them head on. That shift, that mental rewiring, isn't normal in today's comfort-obsessed society. It's Stoic. It's rare. And it's a powerful sign you're becoming a modern Stoic. Why? Because the Stoic doesn't view discomfort as punishment. They see it as a form of preparation. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that's the difference. While others live in fear of discomfort, imagining the worst, you're learning to use it. You've realized that growth is almost always wrapped in pain. That clarity is often found in crisis, and that life's greatest lessons rarely come dressed in comfort. Whether it's enduring heartbreak, facing rejection, dealing with failure, or choosing discipline over ease, you're learning to stay with it, not because it's fun, but because it's transformational. Modern Stoicism isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about saying, "This hurts, but I'll endure it anyway." It's about walking into the fire, eyes open, because you know your strength is forged there. Think about it. When was the last time you truly grew as a person? Was it when everything was perfect? Or was it when life tested you? You're starting to see that discomfort isn't a threat, it's a signal that something inside you is shifting. A sign that you're stepping outside the prison of your comfort zone and into the wild terrain of transformation. You've begun voluntarily doing things that are difficult, waking up early when your body begs for more sleep, saying no when you used to say yes to please others, ending toxic relationships, even when loneliness scares you, speaking the truth, even if it shakes your voice. These aren't small things. They are spiritual revolutions. Because here's the truth: the modern world is designed to keep you numb, distracted, and docile. Comfort is sold to you as the ultimate goal: instant food, instant pleasure, instant escape. But comfort zones are dead zones. Nothing grows there. You've realized this. Now, when things get tough, you don't panic. You pause. You ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? How is this making me stronger? And suddenly, even the pain has purpose. Even the struggle becomes sacred. You are becoming the kind of person who doesn't crumble. When life gets hard, you become sharper, more focused, more dangerous, in the best way possible. You're training your mind to endure what others avoid. You're building mental calluses while others chase cushions. That's not just Stoicism. That's inner mastery. And here's the most powerful part. Because you're embracing discomfort, you're also becoming unshakable. You're no longer controlled by fear of failure. because you know failure is part of the process. You're no longer desperate to avoid pain, because you know pain is your greatest sculptor. Most people build their lives around avoiding pain, but you're learning to build through it. You've stopped asking for an easy life. Now, you ask for the strength to handle a hard one. That alone puts you in the 1%. That's the second sign you're becoming a modern Stoic. You no longer run from the fire. You walk into it with your eyes open, and you come out stronger. Because the Stoic understands pain is temporary, but the wisdom it leaves behind is eternal. Sign number 3, you've stopped needing validation. Your approval comes from within. At some point in your life, the applause of others felt like oxygen. You needed it to breathe, to feel worthy, to believe that you mattered. You chased likes, compliments, attention, external proof that you were enough. But now, something's changed. You no longer seek validation from the outside world. You don't beg for attention. You don't mold yourself just to fit in or to be accepted. Instead, your validation comes from one place, within. That's not arrogance, it's authenticity. And it's one of the most powerful signs you're becoming a modern Stoic. The ancient Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Sound familiar? We've all been there, living through other people's eyes, posting things just to get likes, wearing masks just to be liked, saying yes just to avoid judgment. But that's not you anymore. Now, you don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need a room full of applause to know you're walking the right path. Why? Because you've started listening to a more powerful voice, your own conscience. This is the Stoic superpower, to live in alignment with your principles, not public opinion. You don't dress for them. You don't act for them. You don't succeed to impress them. You do it because it feels right to you. That shift from seeking approval to seeking integrity changes everything. It gives you peace. It gives you strength. And most importantly, it gives you freedom. You're no longer controlled by what people think. Someone unfollows you. You let them. Someone misunderstands you. You don't argue. Someone disrespects you. You remove access, not your self-worth. You've stopped handing your emotional security to people who never earned it. That's not coldness. That's clarity. You've realized something few ever do, that chasing validation is a bottomless pit. The more you feed it, the more it needs. But self-respect, that's sustainable. That's solid. That's Stoic. You've begun defining success on your own terms, not how flashy your car is, or how calm your mind is, not how many people admire you, but how authentic you feel. Now, you don't fake confidence. You cultivate it through discipline, honesty, and growth. You don't ask, "Will they like me?" You ask, "Am I living in truth?" You don't shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You expand silently, powerfully. Here's something important. When you stop seeking validation, you become dangerous to people who once controlled you with approval and praise. They don't know how to manipulate someone who isn't seeking their permission. And you've seen that. You felt people pull away when you stopped performing. You've lost friends when you stopped needing their validation. But you didn't shrink back, you stood taller. Because real self-worth isn't loud, it's unshakable. This is where true masculinity and femininity emerge from a place of wholeness, not neediness. You no longer need to convince anyone of your value. You know it, you live it. That's the third sign you're becoming a modern Stoic. And it might be the most liberating realization of your life. You do not need to be understood by everyone to be at peace with yourself. So if you've been walking away from needing likes, approval, or applause, if you've started validating yourself with quiet discipline, consistent values, and honest living, then know this: you're not just on the path of Stoicism, you're embodying it. You've stopped asking, "Am I good enough?" and started answering, "I am, and I don't need permission to be." Sign number 4. You see obstacles as opportunities for inner growth. Let's face it, life throws punches. Hard ones, unexpected ones. Sometimes it feels like the universe itself is working against you. A failed relationship, a missed opportunity, an illness, a betrayal. Most people respond to these setbacks with bitterness or self-pity. They ask, "Why me?" They look for someone to blame. They shut down and give up. But if you're becoming a modern Stoic, your response is different. You no longer see obstacles as unfair punishments. You see them as invitations to evolve, to strengthen, to understand. Because now you know, the obstacle is not in the way. The obstacle is the way. That simple yet profound Stoic principle, made popular again by Ryan Holiday, is not just a catchy phrase. It's a lens that shifts your entire worldview. When something doesn't go your way, you don't collapse. You adapt. You pivot. You rise stronger, wiser, more resilient. You've stopped resisting what is and started asking, "What is this here to teach me?" And that question, that simple question, is the heartbeat of every Stoic transformation. Let's say you lose your job. The old version of you might have panicked, spiraled into fear, or drowned in insecurity. But now, you take a breath, you examine it with clear eyes, and you say, "Good. Now I get to rebuild. Now I get to rediscover who I'm beyond this title." You take that pain and you convert it into clarity, into discipline, into a new path forward. You've realized that every trial is a test of character, and character is the only thing life can't take away from you. This mindset doesn't come easy. It's forged in fire. But when you start choosing growth over grief, reflection over reaction, you're living the Stoic way. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." This isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending to be bulletproof. It's about realizing you control the meaning you assign to events. Life will break everyone at some point, but not everyone chooses to build something from the broken pieces. And that's what you're doing now. You've stopped saying, "This ruined me." You've started saying, "This revealed me." Think about it. Was it not your hardest moments that taught you the most? Was it not the heartbreak that taught you your worth? The failure that taught you humility? The silence that taught you peace? When you adopt this Stoic mindset, you become anti-fragile. Not just unbreakable, but better because you were broken. You become a force life cannot crush because every time it tries, you come back stronger, smarter, sharper. This isn't toxic positivity. This is philosophical resilience. It's knowing that even if life takes everything from you, it cannot take your response. And in that response lies your freedom. So, next time an obstacle rises, remember this. You can either let it define you, or you can let it refine you. You can either shrink, or you can rise. You're becoming the kind of person who no longer says, "I hope nothing bad happens today." You say, "Whatever happens, I'll handle it, and I'll grow from it." That mindset is rare. It's powerful. It's stoic. So if you've caught yourself rising in the face of difficulty, if you've begun seeing pain, not as a punishment, but as a path, then you're not just surviving, you're awakening. And that is the fourth undeniable sign you're becoming a modern Stoic. Sign number 5, you prioritize what you can control and release what you can't. Imagine this, you're in a storm. Winds are howling. Rain is relentless. Everything around you feels out of control. But deep inside, you're calm. Why? Because you've realized something most people never do. You can't control the storm, but you can control how you sail through it. This is one of the most sacred Stoic truths. And if it's become a part of your daily mindset, there's no doubt about it. You're becoming a modern Stoic. Epictetus once said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." And when you start to truly live by that distinction, your life changes. You stop arguing with reality. You stop trying to fix what was never yours to fix. You let go of things like how others treat you, what people think about you, the outcome of your hard work, the decisions of those you love, the chaos of the world, because here's the truth. Worrying about what you cannot control is the fastest way to lose your power. It drains your energy, clouds your clarity, and robs you of peace. But once you start directing your energy to what is within your reach, your effort, your mindset, your attitude, your integrity, everything shifts. You become laser-focused. You become emotionally bulletproof. You become free. And make no mistake, this isn't passivity. This isn't about accepting a mediocre life or avoiding responsibility. This is about radical ownership of your sphere of influence. Let's take a real-world example. You're working hard to grow a business, a career, or a relationship. You're putting in the hours. You're doing everything right. But results are slow. People disappoint you. Outcomes fall short. The old you might have spiraled, blamed others, questioned your worth, maybe even quit. But now you zoom in. You ask, what part of this is mine to improve? What can I do today, even if it's small? What is the next right action, not the perfect result? You've become the kind of person who moves forward without needing guarantees. Because your power doesn't come from the outcome, it comes from the intention behind your actions. That is Stoicism in motion. You no longer obsess over the uncontrollable. You wake up, do your part, and surrender the rest. You plant the seed. You water it. You trust the timing. That's not laziness, that's wisdom. You've learned that stress often comes not from the events in your life, but from trying to control what was never yours. And when you let go, the mental fog lifts, your mind clears, your heart softens, your soul breathes. You become less reactive. You stop wasting energy trying to fix people or predict the future. Instead, you invest your time where it actually matters, showing up with consistency, keeping your word, mastering your thoughts, responding instead of reacting, living your values, even when no one's watching. This gives you unshakable peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've made peace with what is and what isn't. And maybe the most powerful part of all, this mindset makes you unmanipulable. People can't guilt you because you know your intentions. They can't bait you into arguments because you've mastered your emotions. They can't confuse you with chaos because your compass is internal, not external. This is what happens when you start drawing the line between what's within and what's beyond your control. You stop being a victim of life and start becoming the author of your response to it. If you've started letting go of what burdens you, if you've begun focusing more on how you show up than on how life shows up for you, then you're not just thinking like a Stoic, you're living like one. You've stopped trying to control the wind, and you've learned to adjust your sails. That's the fifth undeniable sign that you're becoming a modern Stoic. Sign number 6. You find strength in solitude and no longer fear being alone. Once upon a time, silence felt unbearable. Loneliness felt like a punishment. And being alone, that used to feel like being unwanted, unworthy, forgotten. But now, you've begun to see solitude differently, not as emptiness, not as abandonment, but as empowerment. You've realized that true peace isn't found in noise. It's discovered in the quiet moments when no one is around, and your thoughts become your only company. That realization is profound, and it's one of the clearest, most powerful signs you're becoming a modern Stoic. In today's hyper-connected world, everyone is busy avoiding being alone. They drown in distractions, endless scrolling, constant texting, non-stop entertainment. Because silence terrifies them. It forces them to hear what they've been avoiding, their own inner voice. But not you. You've begun to embrace that voice, to listen, to reflect, to make friends with your own mind. And in doing so, you've tapped into something most people never will: self-trust. Marcus Aurelius spent much of his life journaling alone, not to impress the world, but to stay anchored in his truth, to sort through the noise, to sharpen his character. You're doing the same. Whether it's journaling in the early morning light, taking long walks without headphones, sitting in stillness just to breathe and be, you've discovered the power of being alone without being lonely. This doesn't mean you've shut the world out. It means you've stopped relying on the world to validate your existence. You don't chase temporary connections just to fill a void. You don't tolerate shallow company just to avoid an empty room. You've started valuing your own presence more than the presence of people who drain you. That is a radical act in a world that tells you to be constantly available, constantly connected, constantly visible. You've learned that solitude is where the soul strengthens. It's where clarity is born. It's where the fog of confusion lifts and the truth of who you are begins to shine. And in that quiet space, you start to rebuild yourself deliberately, authentically. You shed the roles, the masks, the performative layers. You're no longer trying to be what others expect. You're simply being. And that level of self-acceptance is rare. It's powerful. It's stoic. You've also discovered something else in your solitude. That your worth was never tied to how many people call you, text you, or like your content. It was always rooted in how you see yourself when no one else is looking. That's where character is born. In the silence, in the stillness, in the space where no applause is heard yet you still choose to show up with integrity. And here's what's beautiful. Because you no longer fear solitude, you now make better choices. You don't settle for half-hearted relationships. You don't say yes just to avoid being alone. You don't abandon yourself for someone else's attention. You're no longer afraid to walk alone because you know the road to greatness often is. You've discovered that time spent alone is time spent in alignment. It's the moment when your soul breathes, your mind clears, and your path becomes visible. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. So if you've found yourself pulling away from noise, seeking solitude, spending more time reflecting than reacting, if you're no longer afraid to stand alone because you're finally standing in truth, then this is your sign. You're not becoming distant. You're becoming disciplined. You're not lost. You're aligned. And that, my friend, is the final, beautiful, and undeniable sign that you are becoming a modern Stoic. You found peace where others panic. You found strength where others seek escape. You found yourself right there, in the silence. Conclusion. So now you know, becoming a modern Stoic isn't about being emotionless. It's about mastering your emotions. It's not about detachment. It's about discipline. It's not about being cold. It's about being calm in the fire. If even one of these 6 signs resonated with you, if you saw your reflection in these words, then you're on the path. And that path will lead you to unshakable strength, lasting peace, and a deeper purpose. If this spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, share this with someone who needs it, and comment below which sign hit home the hardest for you. Let's grow together.